And we're talking about a location. I like.
Send them a warning letter, have you done this? All that'll be spelled out, so that way we have concrete things to reference.
Right. that I have.
You didn't bring me any gifts?
This is my.
It happens every 2 years.
somewhere.
Yeah, she's going to France coming up.
Where was she?
I think we're good to go, guys. Everybody ready?
Ready.
Yep. Ready?
I wonder where Angela is.
You may have to do a presentation.
Awesome.
We're in trouble. Case that.
We're in trouble.
Good to go. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the May 29th, 2024 Apex Parks Recreation and Cultural Resources Advisory Commission meeting. We always start with a moment of invocation. So if you would. Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as I understand it now, there's the need for the approval of cancellations of meetings. So we had a meeting cancellation back on March 27th, 2024. And I would just need a motion to approve the cancellation of that meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Then also, we always send out the meeting minutes from the previous meeting. Trust everybody's had a chance to review those. Also would need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the April 24th, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. On to the director's report.
So for me, we had a contract approved last night for street hockey. So that's awesome. It's notice of awards going to go out, and we can start moving forward on that. So that was a pretty big deal last night. The other big deal was Splash Pad opened last Saturday. So that was a really good thing. We've got some hurdles that we're still jumping out at the Splash Pad because we got some pump room issues already. So we got to get a few new parts, and hopefully we can keep it up and running at least this coming weekend. And by next week, they'll come out and replace all those parts. So we were working pretty hard to keep it up and running on Saturday and Sunday.
How
this
many
weekend.
people?
Yeah, that's me. My
We
question.
had a little bit over 100 people that came out on Saturday when I was there, and you still could put more into the Splash Pad area. Yeah, so we probably could fit around 130, 140 people in the Splash Pad. So, yeah,
But 100 would be the max. I was reading it in.
We were restricting it. We kind of wanted to at first to see how many we could take, so we were going to restrict it to 100. But I think we probably could put 120, 140 in, and it would still be comfortable for everybody. So that was a big deal because I'll get some shout outs to some people here because I did it out there at the site too. Brian Barnes, our park operations manager, Megan Stevenson, the team leader out there at Pleasant Park, Patrick Fitzsimmons, the team leader. Then a guy named Sean Hare, he's with Waterplay. And the thing about Sean is he's the one that sold the materials to the contractor to do the work. And he's a former Apex resident. And so we were running into some issues from a contractor perspective to get him here. And he came and he put in the time for a couple of days just to get us around the turn. And so that was a big deal. We were pretty excited about that. We're preparing for Pride, Juneteenth, July 3rd and July 4th. So we have we've been prepping for all of that for a long time. This is after a 5-weekend stretch where we had special events every single weekend. So that was pretty huge. Other than that, I think we can jump into some personnel stuff. So, Elizabeth, if you would like to come on up.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Schoaf. I'm the Recreation Program Supervisor for the department, and I'm here tonight to introduce Margot Gregory. She is one of our new camp directors. Megan Jones, who was introduced last year, she is her direct supervisor, but she's on vacation right now, much deserved. And so I'm here tonight to introduce Margot, so I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, my name is Margot Gregory. I have the privilege of serving as a camp director for our track out camps. I started back at the end of October as a camp counselor and was recently promoted to director. And I'm really grateful to be serving in the Apex Parks and Rec department. I'm an Apex native, grew up going to Chaffel Elementary, Lufkin Road Middle, and I was part of the first freshman class at Apex Friendship. I graduated about a year ago from Liberty University, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Appreciate that. And I know y'all have to go.
We have to finish Youth Council board member presentations in the Senior Center, so we're here until 8 o'clock tonight hearing presentations. So far, they're going great, but I'm sorry that we do have to leave. But I hope you have a great meeting. Thank you very
Do they
much.
have snacks for you at your other meetings? We got some snacks.
We treated ourselves to some Jersey Mikes before, so I think we're good, but thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. Angela?
You guys can come up here.
Hi, in the back. Sorry. Busy days, so I'm like, I looked at the clock, it was 5:37 and then it was 5:57. So anyway, we have two interns that have joined us this week. They will be with us for the summer full-time and part-time once they go back to school. I won't put you on the spot, make you tell them a whole bunch about yourself if you don't want to. But so this is Dalton Langdon, and he is getting his master's in landscape architecture, starting his third year, and has a lot of great experience from what we have been hearing. And this is Sophia Cardman. And she is at UNC doing her master's in urban planning, city planning?
Same thing.
Same thing. You know, all of that. So we've got a lot of great projects, as you all know, that are underway, and we're hoping to give them a really good opportunity to be exposed to all the types of projects that we have going on. So lots of good stuff.
Welcome.
Would y'all like to share anything about yourselves? up to you.
Not prepared as she was to give a.
I think Angela covered the basics.
I heard landscape architecture.
Correct.
Is that at state?
Yes, sir.
Good.
We're happy to hear that.
Did I say that out loud? Oh my gosh.
I was waiting on that. I was waiting on you. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let's balance that Carolina stuff.
I'm really sad none of our landscape architects are here today.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, that's, I mean, unless y'all want to hear a lot about all the projects that are in your packets, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory in the packet, so, about where we are, which we went pretty in depth on them last time around.
I have one question. Have you awarded the contract for the pump track yet?
Beat me to it.
Sorry, that's the only one I know that's outstanding.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question too.
Not yet.
There's couple.
Well, environmental education centers out there too, that haven't been awarded either.
And West Street,
And West Street, well, we haven't even,
that's not out yet.
I mean, it's out, we're just trying to work through the contract for it.
Got it. Okay. And did you
It's
not?
illegal.
Did you not get bids for the bike? I know that was the challenge.
did.
You did. Okay. Do you have enough once it
Yes.
closes?
We did.
Okay.
It's already closed,
Okay. Okay. All right.
so
Okay.
we're just going through the review.
Okay. But I know that was a challenge to get
Yeah,
enough.
we had 3 this time. I mean, we got one more than we had last time, so we got the minimum amount.
Awesome.
I have a question about the Environmental Education Center, and that is, at one point, I thought we were talking about locating it across the road from the majority of the park. Where is that actually going to be located? Do we know?
We're putting it beside the shelter where it was originally planned to.
Okay, all right, okay,
From a cost perspective, it just makes sense.
right.
That we constructed that restroom facility so that we could tie this building into it. So infrastructure wise, we're ready to put a building there. So
It'll be a good,
that's what we
it'll be a
decided.
good spot.
So you don't have to add any additional parking, stuff like that. I mean, it's ready. So.
Cool.
Any other questions? All right.
So that bundle, we're good to go. Nothing for program report. I don't have anything for chairman's report. Pause for public comment. No old business. We can jump right into the new business. And Craig is so glad you're here, Angela.
But he's gonna have to manage this
Me
on
too.
his own.
'Cause I was about-
We're all glad.
Yeah, nobody wanted me to do that at all.
So this is a case of what we're presenting is recommendations that have come from the Middle Creek feasibility study. We had a grant through the state, IMBD, NCDOT program, and because the Middle Creek Greenway is part of the Great Trail State Plan connecting Holly Springs through Apex to the town of Cary and the Swift Creek Greenway corridor. This piece was something we knew was a priority for the town and our adjacent communities, and we've been working with them and VHB. And because the report is coming out, but the recommendations are mostly the alignment of the corridor and designations of the trail. We didn't have VHB come and present their full findings because they were evaluating 3 alternatives that we presented, and we ended up sort of with the finalized version that was not any of our alternatives, but a good alternative. So what I want to do is, if you're agreeable, is go through all of the recommended changes, and then they're listed sort of first, second, third in your report, but let you have the opportunity to hear all of the collective amendments that need to be made, and then you can decide whether or not you want to do them all as one recommendation to adopt all of the proposed amendments, or if you want to tackle any of them separately. But I think knowing the whole story before you go to that point would be helpful for you. So the first is to show you on the slide that the gray alignment, which is what is the current Middle Creek designation. It is currently all side path, which is that 10-foot wide multi-use, multi-purpose trail adjacent to the roadway. This is in a developed area of a lot of commercial, including industrial mostly, with some office, and the Lufkin Road Middle School, which is that converted warehouse, I don't know what it was, building that had warehouse and other uses associated with it. So it is an industrial area. The change would be from north of Jesse Drive here at the Pristine Water and Production Drive intersection. We would remove the designation of this side path as being a part of the Middle Creek corridor, with then the follow-up recommendation that we would designate Production Drive at the intersection of Pristine Water to the intersection with Reliance Avenue up to 1010 Road, and then along 1010 to the existing greenway that we know as the Swift Creek Connector be the new designation. So the first is just removing the designation of corridors so that we can make this alignment, which we felt through the study and the report is the best alignment to get the connection of Middle Creek up to the Swift Creek Connector. So involved with that is a lot of little pieces because we can't just change designation without making sure that we have the full connection of the corridors. And so I'm going to start from the west and move to the east because it seems easiest that with the removal of the corridor alignment on that western side, there appears to be no purpose for the side path that's on the west side of Classic Drive or Classic Road because it doesn't connect anything that's part of that network. So the first is to remove the proposed side path on this side. The second piece is, I guess this makes sense to go here, is to add proposed side path to the north side of Classic Road. Now there's a lot of that section that's already built with sidewalks, so in ideal sense it would be expanding the 5-foot sidewalk into a 10-foot concrete pathway. And the reason for that is one, to maintain the connectivity from the new Middle Creek Greenway to Lufkin Road Middle School, and also to this proposed greenway that runs across 55 into the Viridia Sustainability Development Plan area. The reason it's on the north side is because, one, it's closer to the school site, and two, while there's trees and plantings and infrastructure on both sides of Classic Road, the north side has the least amount of large utility relocations that would need to occur. So that's the thinking of that alignment there. The next would be that we don't have side path currently located on the west side of Reliance Avenue at this point for that entire stretch. And so the first is to designate this small section here to the cul-de-sac, well, it was a cul-de-sac, but the extension down to Production, to make that side path be a part of the corridor, and that it be on the west side, because I think our current plan just sort of shows it floating in the middle of the street. And then from Classic Road north to 1010 is that the Reliance Avenue side path would be added because it's not currently on the plan. And then the last piece is that our plan is to cross 1010 at the intersection of Reliance where there's a signal at this point. And then we want to take what was side path designated on the north side of 1010 and reclassify that. So it's taking proposed greenway to making it proposed side path and extending it from Reliance Avenue to the Swift Creek Greenway corridor, Swift Creek Connector Greenway corridor, and then remove the side path designation that's on the west side, that's sort of like in front of the sheets in the utility corridor there. So that's kind of a group thing that happens at that point. So lots of changes. Hopefully that's pretty clear, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about all of those.
Well, I'm just commenting, Jeff, that's a really busy intersection there. Is
Yes.
that a concern? Yeah, obviously, yeah. It's not a question, it's just an observation.
Right.
So are we concerned about that? You know,
Well, so originally it was sort of more at there's that gas station, and it's Meridian Point Drive, I think, and it was intended to be in front of the sheets and cross mid-block
right.
where there's not a traffic signal. The 1010 widening will include additional side path along the corridor, including long-term it's supposed to widen the bridge. So that will all change. But if we designate that crossing at that location, then there's a likelihood that we can get a median refuge and, we'll have the pedestrian signage and stuff. So some of these designations are to make sure that we're getting our plan and intent covered when they do the final plans for widening 1010.
And DOT will work some of that into their widening plans if it's designated on our
Yes.
Parks and Rec Greenway plan.
Yes. So making that designation of that corridor and how it aligns exactly, and making sure that all the features are there of it being a 10-foot wide and everything, means that it would be it should be accommodated, or at least included. Sometimes it includes us having some cost sharing component, but in this case, I think we're pretty confident that would just be included in the plan, because if you're going to cross a major greenway corridor on the state plan at an intersection, it should be provided for in the way that the turning movements and the lights and signaling happen.
Has Apex started thinking about doing if you're going to redesignate this basically as a greenway, have we started looking at ped heads at that signal already? Because the signal's there and operational, the box is all there.
Right.
It'd be relatively easy.
I think part of it right now is it's a gap. So once we are further south at Jesse Drive and the connection happens for Middle Creek and in Horton Park, we're closing that gap. And once, even though it's...
I mean, sidewalks are built all up Production, Reliance Avenue, Classic Road. The sidewalks are all existing, correct?
Right.
So the other question I have is, we're changing this now to a side pass. So the town doesn't have plans to widen the sidewalk. You're going to rely upon anybody submitting a new development plan or new site plan to widen those sidewalks, or what's the goal?
Well, the reality is, with them all being developed, unless somebody was drastically changing what they're currently doing, there isn't going to be a project that would kick that requirement
I'm just
in.
concerned that if somebody goes in to expand their building, they find out that, oh, by the way, that's now a 10-foot side path, you get to do, as part of your building expansion, you get to go out front and put another 5 feet of the sidewalk together. Is that a requirement that staff's gonna?
I think
Force.
one, it depends on how major, I mean, in a sense, most of them don't have a lot of space to expand business-wise, so the footprint, so they might not kick into that.
But you see where I'm going with it.
I do.
You can't say it depends on how
Right,
aggressive they're.
right, I know.
The minute they submit a site plan, staff has to request the additional 5 feet regardless of whether they can make it work or not. So my big concern is you've got all these businesses in here that may look at this and say, that's a $40,000 sidewalk installation, and all I want to do is add 5,000 square feet to my building, and I'm getting stuck with this. So just understand that.
Well, the good news is during the planning process to make this alignment decision, we literally, our consultants went out and knocked on every door and talked to every business owner and asked them for input and shared advice or shared their thoughts. So we do have them at least aware that we're making this plan change. The other thing is because of the way that the new NCDOT program for Bike Ped is working and their efforts with the Great Trail State Plan, one of the things that they've talked about is those of us who have feasibility studies completed as a part of that funding would then come back to them and ask for funding for design and construction. And so we're going to see how that plays out, with the hope that since we're building this corridor and it's a primary, corridor for us, one we've been really working on, that we would be able to complete it with their assistance for funding.
That was gonna be my question. If with the 5-foot sidewalks, were there funds for the town to do it, and/or would it still qualify as being part of that system if it hasn't been converted to match? Like, if it's still 5-foot sidewalk, is it just a connector then, or does it still qualify to be that continuous? I've seen a little bit of the plan and guidelines. I know that might be a little nuanced of a question, but.
So the interesting thing about this is the designation of it as the Greenway Corridor fulfills the plan and our concept of this, corridor plan. But at the same time, because it's side path, it becomes a transportation related component. And so it sort of, while we're working with them and spearheading this change because it was our project, ultimately the funding and overseeing the project of installation will probably fall to planning and our transportation team. But we've worked with them and we're presenting the findings of the report because it's ours, but we'll take it all the way through the process as a shared Bike Ped facility program. And we're kind of, yes, on the lines of it would likely, because of side path, not be a park component, but be a transportation, but then it meets the needs of our corridor. So.
And I get that part too. I guess my other question is, if we're promoting long-term, if we're promoting this as this connector and there's all these 5-foot sidewalks, and technically, and unless I understand it, you're not supposed to be having bikes on the 5-foot sidewalks and all that. I could be wrong, may have changed. Where is that impasse, right? When does it become part of this connected greenway when it becomes a 10-foot side path, which I know there's, to his point, there's those other complications, or when is it just is it sitting in limbo until something happens? Maybe that's my question.
Well, I mean, our goal is now that if we get the plan adopted and amended, is the next step would be to look at how we get design for that. And to an extent, our focus from the Middle Creek corridor is what do we need to do along Reliance and Production. And Production is being built as side path with the new, is it Apex Commerce Center? It's had so many names.
Cash Corporate or whatever.
Cash Corporate, Apex Commerce. So those projects within that overall project completed most of that. So we're really looking at what's just along Reliance and then improving along 1010 in the future. So, we're working on what does the report show us and how do we make the amendments to get the report implemented? And then the next step would be, how do we fall into this IMBD program and look for design and then construction? and it might be even that our internal staff, because we do, in transportation-related projects, the side path and sidewalks design is often done in-house. So we might be able to skip the in-house design, like do that in-house and skip requesting design funding, but then be able to go out and ask for construction funding. And their hope is that projects will work through this process. And those that are funded for design, once they, feasibility, then design and construction will be able to be supported through that plan.
That's, I guess that was my concern is, does this movement put us at a point where we're creating these things to create connections and transportation, but until it goes from sidewalk to side path, technically it's designated as one thing versus another. So I think I understand now. So y'all always do great work, but I've expressed I'm not a fan of side paths. I want the big man. The greenways, I get it. Like I totally understand that. But I also want to connect. And I also think to your point, if we're all of a sudden saddling those businesses with potentially, I think that's a really important consideration. But if you've talked to them, it sounds like
Right.
it's good. It's not a bad thing, right? So the more, as the town grows, more opportunities for individuals to use different modes of transportation, right? If biking there, as all those new developments happen, that's my concern, right? Are they gonna be able to use those paths as intended versus having to stop because of the sidewalk? Now people ride their bikes on sidewalks, I get it, but
And we've talked about the connection from Cary along the power lines on US 1 coming down into Horton Park and south into Holly Springs. Is there a reason, because south of Jesse, it's all greenway. Is there a reason we can't designate this as street side greenways versus side path?
Yes, because our street side greenway is a rural context,
So you can't use it. We're getting into,
right?
they have to be in like a wider,
A 50-foot.
50
and we're getting into the more urban.
Right. I mean, this is in an industrial park. So we did, I mean, the place where we are kind of going to east and west, right? We've got east going into Cary along a Duke transmission line. We have west going from Classic Road into a Duke transmission line into Verdia. And those are like ideas that are like proposed alignments and a plan that tries to provide connectivity. Everybody that we've talked to is like, this is a great idea. This would be, a really, if you can work it out with Duke and figure out how to make it happen, you're creating this corridor that parallels US 1 and can link all the way to the western edge of the county. And so that is possible within this space between 1010 and Classic. The problem is a lot of the commercial or industrial sites are utilizing the space under the power lines for parking and storage of material and equipment. And so they must have an agreement, or else, the Duke folks don't really monitor what's happening there. But we looked at, we've tried to communicate with them. We're still on the path of, at some point, we need to sit down and get their feedback, because this creates this, part of the state plan linking these up, but also that corridor would be a long way to get people off-road. And we just couldn't find, between the creeks that are between these buildings and the existing development, find a way to really get off-road in this location. And we're, retrofitting a greenway or a corridor into what's mostly already completed development. So
That's all heavy industrial with
Yeah.
with the recycling facility down there.
I'll maybe ask another, you could see with the side path and as it grows, and if once it gets connected and in theory, there's greenway traffic, right, connection, you could see some changes and potentially some of those businesses, right? It might, in theory, right, like the idea of having connectivity to greenways is for some businesses an incentive, but.
And I mean, the middle school folks, we talked to them about, is it a route to school? Because you can use on-street as safe routes to school. The problem is that isn't a school that's served by, they don't meet any walking requirements. And in fact, what they were trying to find out was did we have a transit option, because they do serve as a base school for an area of Raleigh that's bused here, and if the kids miss that bus, they can get public transportation and walk from somewhere up on 55 down to the school. And there are kids that are doing that, and families who don't have vehicles who have done that. But we don't have a transit that so we're trying to figure out, is there another way to could they get to a greenway on 55 and come over? Could we add in one of the bus routes a stop that would do that? But we've got to get that corridor built along the power line. And so, it's a bigger, longer, more urban sort of look picture because of the fact that that area is heavily developed, as well as not the kind of uses you really want to spend a lot of time being adjacent to or within their property, with the gas pipeline and everything else out there.
Yeah.
So,
Quite an area back
That's
there.
the best place to put a greenway, right down the gas line.
That's what we have for that. A full report's coming out, but it's a lot of just the heat maps and the understanding where there was the most conflict. We did look at some other alternatives of getting out to 1010, but we weren't anywhere near that Meridian Point connection. And we were crossing property that's got other uses currently. So we were staying with the street, but doing the most direct route, which seems the easiest to fund and the most likely to get completed quickly, but also, meeting the requirements. And we're not taking, other than this one little piece here and a little bit of designation right there, we're not removing any of the side path that's in the program so that the folks that work out there could still, walk at lunchtime or, bike at lunchtime or bike to their work. So we're still keeping that open as a commuter type option for folks.
And I'm not against side path. I just prefer the
Absolutely.
alternative.
We do too.
That's about a greenway.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. If I find my way, we'd
Chairman,
have.
I'd like to make a motion to accept all 8 amendments as presented to amend the master plan for Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources, Greenway, and Open Space in an effort to complete the bicycle and pedestrian route from Lufkin Road to Middle Creek Greenway along Reliance Ave and Meridian Point Drive.
Second.
Right.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment before we vote?
And I wanted to pause for that call.
Is that
So,
okay?
yeah, that's fine. It's perfectly fine.
You guys know I am all for extending greenways. The only problem that I have with this one, and I'm still going to vote for it, the only problem I have is we're putting the construction of the side path on existing businesses that have done their job, which is to put sidewalks in the past. So my only concern with this is burdening existing non-residential development with a future cost that they may or may not be aware of. Even though staff has met with them, those businesses will change over and somebody else will come in. I'm in full support of getting from, I love the idea of the Holly Springs through Apex to this Cary Greenway system. Excites me, especially working on Horton Park for years, getting a section of the Greenway down here built and walking out there recently and seeing it. I'm excited for this to be done, but I just see the drawback for these existing property owners along Reliance Avenue. So that's my only comment. Yep.
I'll say similar, but almost opposite perspective. I'm concerned how long it will just be regular sidewalk because of your point, putting it on the businesses and or having to get funding. So it's a great plan, but I'll also support it, but I do have that concern. So.
And with those comments, is there the need for careful consideration not to send all 8, or does that matter? I guess with what you all are.
From my standpoint, none of the individual ones that Angela spelled out
Solves that.
Yeah, none of them are. There's not one that's like, hey, deny this one, and I agree with all the others. It's simply that. It's simply that burden on that
And
that Reliance Avenue core.
and mine's kind of the same thing. It's just the time wise, and how long is it going to be a sidewalk when it's as a greenway? So, and also the businesses. That's a lot to ask as a business owner myself. So,
Well, I think it's good that we carefully considered that too before we just went through it with all of the 8.
And I appreciate Angela and talking to the people that own businesses out here, because those, that's a really, it's almost completely developed out, good industrial park. It's needed, but Angela's right. It's not the kind of place that somebody's going to be taking their time wandering through a greenway. This is going to be a how quickly can I get through, Reliance Avenue to get down to Horton Park? It's a
It
connector,
truly is a connector.
right? But I appreciate staff's efforts to inform the people.
Can I ask one question? Will there be ample lighting on that when it's done in the plan? Thinking that it's an industrial park and
There should be street lighting.
there's already street light. Okay.
And there's, I mean, right now in some of those areas, they have really nice street trees.
Nice.
So,
Sorry, I didn't mean to tangent.
yeah, I mean, I'm like, it's not, compared to some of our other side paths, it's actually somewhat nicer. It's just the vehicles that are on the road are usually bigger and faster.
Which worth noting.
Okay, well, it's been motion and second, with careful consideration, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, Angela, for
And thanks, everyone. All we need now is a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.